Hi and welcome to Chapter 8, the Chief Executive. We will be looking at the Office of the Presidency of the United States. We're going to look at the Constitution provisions that deals with the office, the restrictions and the powers of the office, as well as we're going to look at the historical evolution of the office. There are two things that are important for us to understand at the beginning of the chapter. First thing, if you recall that under the Articles of Confederation, there was no chief executive or executive branch, nor there was a federal judiciary or Supreme Court of the United States, because sovereignty was located within the states, and that's one of the reasons that led to the fragmentation or the weakness of the national government during that time. During the Constitutional Convention, the Great Compromise or the Connecticut Compromise, if you recall, they created a Congress of the United States that is bicameral, and they created the executive branch and the judiciary as well. So the office was created during the Constitution that was created and created the United States of America. Also, you have to understand that the office of the Presidency of the United States can best be understood by the Constitution, but tradition had played a big role in shaping the role of the office. If you recall from the chapter of federalism, when we were talked about how Franklin D. Roosevelt had changed the presidency altogether due to the economic crisis of the Great Depression, and World War II had led to the growth of the executive branch and of the bureaucracy because of simply the services and the programs that were created to help the American people domestically. So certain presidents historically have expanded the powers of the office, and once they expand the power of the office, the tradition was that these roles that are expanded by tradition are added to the president, to the office, the executive branch. Now, there are other presidents besides FDR that were important in our history. For example, Thomas Jefferson and the Louisiana Purchase had really almost doubled the size of the territory of the United States. Also, Abraham Lincoln during the Constitution, and the role of the president during crisis was really increased by the presidency of Abraham Lincoln. So just to understand that, the office of President of the United States was created by the Constitution of the United States, and that tradition plays a big role of what are the rules and the duties of the office as well. So let's start with the oath of the Presidency of the United States. Article 2, Section 1 tells us that before the President enter into the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Now, notice this. There is no word, so help me God. Now, let's watch this.
To introduce the Chief Justice of the United States, John G. Roberts, Jr., who will administer the presidential oath of office. Everyone, please stand.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Now, as we read the Constitution, the provision itself is not there, so help me God. And we know that by tradition that George Washington, President George Washington, when he was affirming the oath of the Constitution of the United States, the oath of the office, he said that at the end of his oath, and out of respect to George Washington, every president that came afterward, out of tradition, it is the role of tradition. That's the purpose of this example that shows you not everything in the Constitution that we can understand what presidents are doing. Also, the role of tradition is very important. In this case, certainly George Washington, by adding "so help me God," every president that followed his office up to now, they have been repeating this this part of the oath. So Article 2 of Section 1 also tells us that the executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States. From the opening statement or clause in the Constitution of the United States, so it won't be any confusion, it says that the office of the President of the United States is going to execute the laws that passed by the Congress of the United States and execute the law in the United States of America. And that he shall hold office during the term of 4 years. So the term of 4 years was set already. Now, the number of terms is not actually set in the Constitution of the United States. So when FDR became the President of the United States, the 32nd President of the United States, he won back-to-back elections 4 times, and he died in his first year of his 4th term. The reason that he was able to run and run again is due to the devastating economic crisis of the Great Depression, and World War II compiled on that. So for that reason, he was able to run for office for almost 4 times, and if he were alive, he would have run for the 5th time, who knows. But to prevent this from ever happening again and becomes a tradition for future presidents, the Constitution of the United States was amended in 1951, and amendment number 22 was added. And it says in Section 1 that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. That's it. And in that sense, that the fear of the tradition, it becomes a tradition that isn't going to be 4 terms or could possibly be open-ended, how many times you're going to run for the office. So that's in that sense, since George Washington ran only twice and he retired and did not want to run for a 3rd term, certainly out of respect of George Washington, yet again, every president that followed George Washington up to the 32nd president were following this precedent that is set by George Washington. It's not stated in the Constitution, but everyone would run for 2 office and then steps down. It took an economic crisis in the United States of the Great Depression, as well compiled with World War II, that led to breaking of this tradition, and for FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, to run 4 times instead of only 2 times. And certainly, because Americans throughout history and up to 1933, since the time of its founding, they were running for 2, presidents ran for 2 offices, so they were comfortable to amend the Constitution and close the door for any possible change to that.